Hi, I'm Jim. I'm making a work for the Normal Festival of the Brain 2018 called Substance Lapsing Unsubstantial. It's a work that I kind of now wish had a title that was easier to say, but this is kind of a vlog kind of talking about making the work, really. So the work is a cardboard canoe, and then we're gonna take it out on the water and paddle it about until it inevitably sinks due to the, well, inherent flaws in using cardboard, a material that takes on water, as a material for building a vessel. Going to be a little bit humorous, but it's looking at some very serious ideas. So what interested me, and the reason I wanted to make this, is I wanted to look at kind of themes of grief, loss, and entropy. The idea that everything is kind of, you know, running away from us and will come to an end. And I was interested in how we as a species deal with that inevitability. How is it that we are able to be creative, you know, as artists, as people, in our relationships, you know, to build things, always with the knowledge that of our own mortality and of the inevitability of things breaking down.
Dad, don't take this wrong, but your expression doesn't fill me with confidence.
The foul stench of death is upon us!
Or by what mechanisms do we negotiate that? And so that's kind of what's going on at the centre of the work. I'm excited to be making it for Normal because that gives us a more opportunity to kind of interrogate that further from a mental, neurological perspective. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing some of the things that making this work brings up for me kind of personally, and working out ways to maybe incorporate that into the work. Because there is a risk with this that it could end up being didactic if it's just, oh look, it's a boat that sinks. I think there's a lot more to it than that. If this was a work that was answering something, it wouldn't be so interesting to me. I think it's a work that kind of hopefully will provoke some questions in the viewer. It certainly provokes questions in me and makes me think about loads of different stuff. But that's not for today. For today, I want to talk about some of the practicality of building this boat. So in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to be able to start building this thing. A space will be available, and I've been working on maquettes and designs, trying to work out, well, how do we go about building a canoe out of cardboard? And one of the things I've been digesting is various canoe building techniques, from kind of skin on frame, which is like the very first canoes were built in that method, and just kind of working out, can we do that with cardboard? Spoiler alert, the quick answer is no, we can't. But also looking at various other canoe building techniques. And what I really wanted to do was find a way that we can, with cardboard, pay homage to kind of traditional techniques. So we're not just treating cardboard entirely as its own material. I want it to make sense with the lineage of canoe building, because I want this to be a crafted object. I want it to mean something when this thing fails and sinks and is no longer usable. And if it's something that still looks like a cardboard box when we're finished building the boat, then that defeats the object in a way. The technique that I've settled upon is a variation on strip wood building. So let's see, here's a maquette here. One of the ones out of all the many paper crafts that I've made that remains. And what it essentially is strips of wood running the length of the boat, which then together make the shape. So a traditional rowing boat would have those pieces of wood overlapping. With stripped wood, you're usually working with cedar or some other flexible wood. And when you cut wood into thin strips, it becomes very flexible, both on the kind of x-axis and the y-axis. So it's really good for kind of building these things. And then there's a kind of convex on top, concave on the bottom, so that they tessellate together. So rather than overlapping each other, they're kind of just kind of toothing together and creating a seal, and then that's used to create the sides of the boat. And it makes really beautiful canoes. And initially I thought we could do that with cardboard, and there are a couple of reasons why that isn't possible that we'll get into, as well as the ways that I have tried to think my way around it. Here's a small piece of cardboard which really just want to show you to describe how we do this thing. So it kind of looks like a skeleton form of a boat if you look at it carefully. So this is the length from one end to the other, and then there are these kind of ribs which create the width of the boat, and they have curvature here to describe the bottom of the boat. And so in strip building, this is called a strong back, and the strips of wood are built around this, and then it gets removed at the end. My proposal for our cardboard version is that we build a strong back, make a cutout for where the person needs to sit, and then actually leave it intact. So by laminating multiple pieces of cardboard together, we can create kind of like beams, and it will give the strong back a lot of strength and integrity that we don't want to then end up ripping out at the end of the process. So my proposal is that we make one of these and we leave it in. That would look a little something like that. So what this is another maquette. This one's 1 meter long, so it's a bit more substantial. And in there you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4 ribs, and then the piece running from one end to the other, from the bow to the stern, as it were. And here I've got 2 sheets laminated together for these edges, 4 for the middle, and the 4 pieces laminated together really do lend quite a lot of strength. What I've learned from this though is we really want to get more width on these, make them even stronger, not only for the added strength, but also because it gives much more room on the edges here to pin these edges in and glue them in. There's not much surface area there, and that creates a bit of a headache. You'll see here that this has this cutout in the middle where the person would sit, and then another piece of cardboard can simply slot in to give us a floor. So that's kind of the structure of the boat. The final thing will be about 12 feet long, which is actually on the shorter end for canoes. However, it will be fine for us because we also want to give us a bit of extra width and give us something of a flat bottom to our boat, which is just going to help us because if the bottom were rounder and not so flat, it would be more likely to tip. And seeing as it's likely we're not going to build this thing kind of absolutely perfectly in terms of its dimensions because of the limitations of the material, I want us to give ourselves the best chance of this thing floating. So that's why we're going for a flat bottom. So this part, you'll remember that I call it strip wood building. So we've got strips of cardboard, and on the maquette, it's basically worked by gluing one end, bending it round, and kind of gluing each piece as we go, forming it as we go. And then it describes the form of a boat, but if I tip it like this, you can see that there are lots of holes. It's hard to get cardboard to tessellate in that same way because it's not flexible and as flexible as wood. So it's all right flexing in one axis, but it doesn't bend very nicely, it doesn't curve very nicely. If it bends on one axis, it doesn't want to bend on the other. And also, you can make a curve with cardboard, but it wants to fold all the time, so it's a bit tricky. This actually has 2 layers of strips slightly offset, and that hopefully will fill most of the gaps, but as you can see, hopefully you can see, there's still a lot of light that comes through there. So it's not ideal. So for a long time I thought we'd have to abandon strip wood building and kind of treat cardboard completely as its own material, forget how wooden canoes are made, and just kind of make it much more angular. And that would be, I think that would be interesting. I kind of would like to try that one day. But for this work, actually I think it's more important that we do pay that homage to traditional techniques, and it's a little bit more work, but in a way that's kind of the point. So this is the way I've thought around it, is that we use gum tape. So my experience with gum tape just comes from like stretching paper for painting and stuff, but essentially what it is it's paper tape with glue on the back, so you make it wet and then you can stick it down. And I feel like that's not cheating because it's still paper. And so what we can do is we do one layer of these strips, then we put the gum tape on around the inside, and then what we can do is make a paper mache of cardboard, and then use that to fill gaps as best we can. And this would be a little bit like using rope and pitch to fill gaps in a ship, in a way. But obviously not exactly watertight. So what we would do is do the paper mache and then use gum tape again. And what we're doing is we're just taking away anywhere where the water can get to the raw edge of cardboard and start kind of seeping right inside. That's going to make this thing sink very, very quickly. So the more that we can kind of cover that up, the more time we're buying ourselves on the water. So gum tape inside, paper mache gum tape outside, and then a second layer of strips. And once we've done that, I think then we can look at it and go, perhaps do we need more paper mache and gum tape? We can kind of decide at that point. I think probably we will. So we'd have a double thick walls with kind of paper mache to help fill gaps, and the gum tape to kind of seal off the edges. And I think that will look pretty snaz. And that is, in a nutshell, the techniques that I think we should be using to build the boat when we come to that in a few weeks' time. So that was rambly, apologies for that, but hopefully that's communicated some of what the plan is. And that's really kind of the purpose of this video, is just to have this reference point back to this is the plan. Okay, see ya, bye.